Hey everyone, I'm Harlan Gatlin and I am a talent manager at ClearVoice. And today we are starting an interview series where we're kind of peeling back the curtains and looking at some of our fantastic writers who contribute to our team. And joining me today is Paul Dughi. Paul, would you like to introduce yourself for us?
Sure. I've been a journalist for more than 20 years. Ended my career managing television stations and groups of television stations. I've always been a writer, always loved writing. ClearVoice gave me the opportunity to work as a freelancer, and ultimately I was able to leave my job and go full time into freelance writing.
Awesome. So you just mentioned that you've been doing this for a very long time. So let's take it all the way back to the beginning. What got you into content marketing?
Like a lot of people, I was looking for a little bit of a side gig, a way to just make a couple of extra bucks. And it turned out that I really enjoyed it. The combination of being able to research and learn new things and then doing something which I loved, which was writing, coupling that with my marketing skills that I'd learned over this long career in television, it turned into a career.
Speaking of your career, like you said, over 20 years, you've written for multiple different industries, multiple different clients, touched on so many different topics. Is there a specific industry that you're most passionate about writing for?
My my experience is in business and tech, and so anything that involves business or tech, and a lot of these things come together naturally, right? I've written a lot about cybersecurity. Everybody's focused right now on AI and generative
Absolutely.
AI. It's opened up all sorts of new avenues, and it's fascinating. Staying on top of emerging tech is almost a full-time job in itself, but I find that type of writing extremely rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned just now staying on top of like the latest tech is a huge part of what you're doing as a writer, and with several of our clients today as well. What do you do to stay updated with the latest trends and the developments in the industries that you're working with?
Yeah, it's funny. I guess everybody has a different routine. My routine every morning is going through all of the industry newsletters, the trade journals. Um, you know, I always tell people when they ask me what my job is, I said I am a professional Googler. Um, I do incredible amounts of research constantly to stay on top of this. I also take, whenever possible, I take the certification courses um, on content marketing, on SEO. Um, I just got a certification from Vanderbilt University on AI prompt engineering.
That's
I don't know
incredible.
that I'll ever use that, but it helps me to understand the process and what people are going through. One of the things I love best about writing and content generation is you're constantly learning and evolving your knowledge base.
Paul, you mentioned AI, and we've seen with several of our clients. There's this trend. It honestly doesn't even matter the industry. Every one of our clients are writing about AI in some way because AI is impacting so many different verticals, so many different spaces today. So in that course that you took with Vanderbilt, or even the previous pieces of content that you've written, can you tell me some of the things that you've learned about AI, or even things that maybe surprised you about AI that maybe you weren't expecting going into this?
Uh, yeah, I didn't realize, I guess, that the both the complexity and the layers to AI, how it's impacting, as you said, almost every business out there in some form or fashion, whether it's on the production side, the behind the scenes, or something that's out front and obvious. I will tell you, one of the things I learned is that I don't care how well you craft prompts, AI is still especially when it comes to content generation, a little flighty. They talk about AI hallucinations. I'm amazed still how often that the generative AI platforms will just make stuff up. They may even provide a link to a source, and when you go to the source, it says something completely different, or it doesn't even exist. I've seen examples of the AI literally making up quotes and ascribing it to particular people who never said those things. I'm sure it will get better in the future. I mean, that's part of why most of these programs are in beta. But right now, it's just not quite there.
Absolutely. But my next question for you is you wrote the book, The Comprehensive Guide to SEO. What inspired you to write an entire book about SEO optimization? And are there any key takeaways from that book that you would want people to know?
Yeah, I started working on that project, oh gosh, 2 years ago, and have been constantly updating it. One of the challenges was every time I would think I would have something completed, there'd be a new iteration of SEO or some changes to the Google algorithms um, that impacted how search engine optimization worked. I was constantly getting questions from the clients that I work with about the way that I write and how things are phrased. For example, simple things like making sure you have the right keywords, making sure that you use the right kind of density with the keywords, and optimizing the content. It wasn't so much that they were complaining about it, it was they might not understand why I used certain terms. And what I found was that with a lot of people in the content marketing space, the people who had to ultimately approve a piece of content, the content subject matter experts, weren't versed in SEO. And so they might question why certain things were being phrased a certain way. And yet, if you remove those phrases, you kind of defeat a lot of the purpose of the content, which is to draw eyeballs, generate leads, to generate conversions. And so over time, I just felt like it would be helpful to have a guide written in kind of common sense language that people could understand the basics of SEO and how it can impact their business in a positive way.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love what you said there at the end about how SEO can positively impact a business. I feel like there's often this conversation about, okay, well, I really want the content to be great, and then you have some people on the other side of the aisle that says, well, the content needs to convert, so it needs to be written for SEO, and it's so hard to bridge that gap. So could you speak a little bit on that? How can we create, and how do you create quality content that also converts and is written for search engines?
Well, gosh, now you make it sound really difficult. And it is. I mean, there's an art to it. It begins with understanding what the client needs and who their target audience is. When you understand that, you can frame up the content in a way that resonates with them. Then you can go in and layer on top of that the things that will appeal to the search engines and hopefully help the content to rank higher on the search engine results pages. But first and foremost, you have to deliver content that means something to people, right? If somebody reads it and they're not getting valuable information out of it, it doesn't matter how well it performs on a search engine. In fact, poor content that performs well on search engines can hurt your business. You have to have good content that is valuable and relevant, solves problems, tells people things they didn't know about, helps them learn things in order to optimize your business and the impact.
So you've also written quite a few articles about social media and whose platform and purpose in society are continuing to evolve today. What do you see as the most valuable aspect of these sites, both in content marketing and personally?
I think most marketers have kind of this love-hate relationship with social media. We see the benefits, we also see the downfalls. You can initiate conversations with people, that's great, but you don't control the conversation. And sometimes that can take you in odd directions. I think that social media plays a great role in helping to establish an identity. Um, as a writer, it helps that I have a social media presence so that I can share my thoughts about content writing, about marketing, about business, about tech. I can help some of my clients further their reach by using my social media platform um, to help provide distribution. And that's where I see the biggest benefit for business. I think that the difficult part for businesses is that if you hand your content to a social media platform, you lose control of what you're doing. Their algorithms can change tomorrow, and any residual benefit you've got can be gone. I still believe the best way to generate content that resonates with people is to use it on the things you control. Your website, the guest posts you use, the places, the groups that you work with, email marketing, digital marketing campaigns to direct people to the content, and then use social media as an adjunct to help broaden that base.
Absolutely. You mentioned algorithms changing, Facebook and LinkedIn's algorithms changing. You mentioned Google's algorithm constantly changing, and that's what's so interesting about SEO is something could be written 3 years ago that some SEO gurus would say today is out of date. But I ascribe to the idea that some of that's true, but there's also these mainstays, right? These things that you can implement that you could implement 10 years ago and can implement now, which will be successful. So despite these changes and what the future of these social platforms look like, as well as Google and other search engines, what are those mainstays? What are those tips that you would provide freelancers or businesses about content that can convert even with the changing algorithms of social platforms in Google?
SEO tactics change from time to time. You're right. What was great advice 10 years ago, 2 years ago, is bad advice now. But there are some underlying core tactics that resonate and go beyond anything. And that is, great content is at the heart of creating thought leadership, establishing authority, and getting people to believe your company is a valid place to do business. If you have great content that delivers on its promise, explaining to people what you do, how you do it, how you're different, your unique value proposition, how you approach things, and teaches them something, lets them learn something they didn't know, looks at a problem or situation from a slightly different perspective, and offers them something of true value, that cuts through all these other things. If you do that and you kind of stay current with the SEO tactics, it leads to great potential and opportunity.
Well, that's awesome, Paul. I think that sort of advice right there is a great way to wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be back with more interviews with dynamic writers and industry leaders. And to learn more about our amazing content specialists, please visit clearvoice.com.